sitting in a corner in the BCCT office, and it's a beautiful view outside. If you look at, you could actually get a sneak peek from Stephen Parker's view. He's obviously, his back is, I was telling him yesterday that, hey, you should turn your desk around so that you can get a good view of Taipei city. And we could almost, if you look far, you could almost see, right into the horizons, there are mountains behind, and it's a really expanded view. And I say that, Steve, you've got one of the best offices in the whole of Taipei. And could be a good metaphor for what we are about to talk about this morning, which is, why should anyone be led by you? How do you become an authentic leader? So my name is, I'm gonna before I go into formally introducing myself, I'm just gonna share my screen with all of you and put my slide up. So I go to share screen. Okay. I've got my slide up. All right, can all of you see the screen? Can you all see my slides? Good, just give me a signal, a thumbs up, or if you go to the control panel, you could do a digital hands up, raise your hands. All right, okay, good. So welcome, my name is Joshua Voon. I am the Principal Director of Q3 Global. We are a company that helps organizations to transform for greater impact. We work alongside business leaders to help them to define their purpose, envision a grand future, a new future, and then co-create strategies, co-create cultures, and also leadership capabilities to help them make this culture come to life, to help them make their future come alive. So we do this by three ways. Number one, advising C-suite on communication and collaboration. Number two, planning, strategy, and preparing for change and preparing to build a future, a brand new future. And number three, executing that strategy and helping them to amplify leadership skills along the way. So for the past 25 years, we have been working alongside these companies. Here is a partial list of our clients. And we have done it for multicultural teams. We've done it in different countries and different locations. And these are some of the clients that we have built a relationship with. Now, speaking of relationships, which is one of the key themes for today, speaking of relationships, what I would like to do now is to help us to build a stronger relationship, help us to get to know each other a little bit better, and chat with each other a bit, get to know each other a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is to get Stephen Parker to put us in a breakout room. And in your breakout rooms, you'll be with another person. What you're going to do is to briefly introduce yourself, where you're calling from today, and also talk about, if anyone asks you this question, what is your answer going to be? So why should anyone be led by you? So let's go ahead, have a chat, and I'll be really curious and interested to find out what comes up in your sharing in your breakout rooms. So Steve, if you could just pop them into breakout rooms, 2 minutes each. That means in total 4 minutes. We will see you back here again when 4 minutes is up. We've got some early birds back in the room.
We're back.
So who are you in the room with, Lawrence?
I was in the room with Yuting. Yeah.
Okay.
Just had a quick introduction and then got chatting a little bit. Yeah.
So Yuting, you survive being in a room with Lawrence. Yuting, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay.
How was your experience of being in the room with Lawrence?
Oh, it's nice. It's actually the first time we've talked. I've been to other BCCT events, but haven't actually met Lawrence before.
Okay.
So just give me 1 second here, Josh. So just as a kind of a format, when you're back in the main room like this, it's a good idea just to kind of mute your microphones. If you don't do it yourself, I will do it for you, but that just feels really rude. So if you can look after your own. And I've got you, Yuting. I've muted you, don't worry. Okay, I'll hand it back to Joshua.
Do we have everyone back in the room? Good. All right, 11 people back in the room. So welcome back. And I'm just curious, how was it? Anything interesting you heard in your conversation with your partner? Perhaps you can have one or two volunteers just come on and share with us, if you're prompted to speak, share with us what interesting thing came out in your discussion, especially when you were answering the question, why should anyone be led by you? Lawrence, you going?
Yeah, I can jump in, fine. Yeah, so we just talked about, I suppose we listened to the feedback. When we've managed teams in the past, we think about the feedback that we've received about being leaders and managing teams. It came down to showing empathy, providing people with support, listening to people. And if there are hard decisions to make, then you provide them with the support they need to kind of keep moving forward.
Okay. Good stuff. What about you, Ting? You think if you could unmute yourself?
Yes, similar to Lauren's answers. The feedback I've got in the past while leading the team is that I do listen to everybody's opinion. I give everybody a chance to speak up their opinion. So in a way, it's good because the company that I work for, that's not the culture. So usually it's the manager who decides everything. But I think the feedback I've got is that sometimes we get a lot of good new ideas just by letting the quiet ones speak out.
Right. Okay. I'm just curious now, was that an easy or difficult question to answer?
For me, it's Lucy here. It's a quite difficult question to answer. And I told Josh, I never thought about this. This is never a question for me, because I'm kind of a mission orientated. Every morning I go into the office, I start to think about what to do and this thing to this and that thing to that, and make sure that the plan is laid out, everything's on track. So I just never thought about why they should be led by me. Instead, I'm thinking this is a responsibility. It's something my boss told me to do. So yeah, forget it. Let's just do it anyway.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your very candid answer, Lucy. Now, if I ask that question, why should anyone be led by you? And you think it's, this is not a question that I'm used to asking myself. It might have become an easier question to answer if I said, why should anyone be managed by you? Am I right? I shouldn't be managed by you because I am senior vice president and you are vice president. That's why. Or because I am a partner and you will never ever made it to a partner. So that's why I'm here, right? But why should anyone be led by you? It's a very, very interesting question. And as I reshare my screen, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this program and how it came about. Now, two consultants, and hang on, it's not moving. So we're stuck on this page. Oops. Okay, got it. Can everyone see my screen? All right. So two consultants, namely Rob Goffey and Gareth Jones from UK. Actually, they are both professors from the London Business School. They have been studying leadership for the past 2 decades or so. And what they found out was that leadership is actually very, very templated. By templated, I mean, if you look at any business literatures, any leadership literatures out there available in the market, you would see they would talk about how can you become a Nelson Mandela? How can you lead like Jack Welch? How can you, build the charisma of a Richard Branson and things like that? It's very, very templated. And these two professors found out that when they were working with clients and when they were consulting with clients, each time they ask this question, why should anything be led by you? They would hear a thundering silence. People would just look at them and go blank. And what happened was then, they went on an extensive study, and it later became a book that later became a 2-day workshop, which I am accredited in. And what I really like about their materials and the methodology was that, number one, it talks about how do you become an authentic leader. Number two, how do you understand the needs of your followers instead of just coming from, this is what I do, I'm a leader, this is what I'm supposed to do. It comes in from an angle of, this is what my follower really needs, and how can I adapt and cater to their needs. And the third one, how to excite followers to exceptional performance. And for the remainders of our session today, we will be focusing in on how do you build a relationship with them. Mainly number two, how do you understand your followers' needs? All right, so we've been talking about leadership a little bit, and right now I would like to transition and invite your voices into this space. For those of you that we haven't had a chance to hear from, I would like to ask you, what's your number one leadership challenge? Right? What leadership challenges do you face every day? And if you were to name one, which is on top of your list, what would that be? So let's open up. If you're prompted to speak, unmute yourself, and let's open up the space to hear what some of your answers might be.
Can I say something?
Yes, Josh.
So one of the challenges I face is that I manage teachers, and sometimes I find it difficult to maybe motivate them to teach lessons that maybe they don't particularly want to teach. Mm-hmm. So what I try and do is kind of, I was saying to Lucy earlier, is show my enthusiasm and my kind of passion for education and what I do, and try and inspire that in other people, in the people that I lead, which sometimes works. It doesn't always work, but that's probably one of the challenging things for me, is kind of actually motivating them to do what they kind of have to do.
Right. So it's getting them to be fully engaged, getting them to really, own that. It's like, this is my job, and you're trying to inspire them to do it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Josh. Anyone else has that same challenge? Raise of hand. Lucy. Yep. Stephen. Okay. Right. Perhaps you can share a little bit, Lucy.
Yeah. As I'm leading technical teams, and everybody knows that the technology is never wait, So what's most difficult thing for me is that customer needs something that we have never done before.
Right.
So, for me, I as a leader, I assume that people that want me to know everything before I assign the work. So when it comes to that point, it's very vulnerable for me to say, well, let's do this. So I have to go do the research myself and talk to people, if you know this and know that. So first of all, I have to get exciting about the new technology before I can even convey this new idea to my teams. So I think this is a very difficult challenge for me every day. So to promote a new idea, to promote new technology, and then use it or make it for customer.
Thank you, Lucy. Really, really interesting. You mentioned things like getting excited about what we have, and then getting my people excited as well. Really interesting, because when this question is being posed to people of in leadership positions across cultures, the answers will normally come back the same. So regardless of which industry, regardless of which culture, the answers would normally revolve around getting people to be inspired, getting people excited. How do I connect with my team? How do I help them, to really get engaged and perform at an optimum level? And the literature says that those are the top 3 to 5 leadership challenges that most leaders would experience. So we have talked a little bit about leadership now, and I'm just wondering, when we say a leader and what a leader does, are we really on the same page? So let's look at what leadership really is. So when we say a leader, What is a leader? Is it someone with a fancy title, or someone who has been promoted, or someone who has been assigned a team? A leader is actually someone who excites others to exceptional performance, right? So a leader has to have followers, and a follower is anyone whom a leader needs to excite to exceptional performance, sometimes within the same team, but not necessary. Okay, so now that we have established that a leader is someone who excites others to exceptional performance, and we also know that a follower is anyone who needs to be excited to exceptional performance, let's look at some of the leadership truths and leadership fundamentals. So essentially, there are three truths when it comes to leadership. The first one is leadership is relational. It is a relationship between the leader and those that the leader is leading, so the followers, right? So if you do not have any followers, there's no leading, right? And when we say followers, we don't really mean people that you're assigned to by default. We mean people who really look up to you, to your leadership for inspiration, to achieve results for your business. Now, the second truth is leadership is non-hierarchical. That means that a title doesn't necessarily make anyone a leader. A title means that someone has more authority within the organization, but not necessarily just because you have a title, that makes you a leader. So leadership is really about building that relationship between a follower and the leader. And it's also non-hierarchical. So it could happen within any place in the organization. And the third point is we say leadership is contextual. So for each situation and each context, it calls the leader for a brand new set of actions. So this means that a leader needs to be adaptive, right? Classic example would be the times that we are living right now. What used to be, what was, is no longer is, right? What used to be has all of a sudden shifted in front of our eyes. So our status quo has been rattled, and we need to be adaptive in looking at the context has changed. I need to change. My followers' needs has to be answered. Okay. We talk about employee engagement, and Lucy, you mentioned one of the key things, one of the key challenges for your business, in your leadership, is actually how do I get my people to be engaged at work? So I would like to introduce you to a model which is called the X model of engagement. And we look at, when we talk about employee engagement, we look at an organization, and each organization has its own success and KPIs, right? How do you measure success for that organization? So it could be market share, it could be monetary terms most of the time, it could be revenue and so on and so forth. And for you to achieve that success and that KPI and establish the culture that you want to establish, you would need individuals who are engaged. You would need individuals who are contributing at a high level so that you could reach your KPIs. And these individuals, each and every one of them, have their own success KPIs as well. So it could be things like, I'm looking for work-life balance. I'm looking for career advancement. I'm looking for status, for recognition. And each and every one of them have a different set of needs and KPIs. So right from this diagram, we now know that the organization and the individual has got different goals. What you want to do is then look at, okay, how am I going to get my individuals to contribute at a maximum level? But at the same time, the individual is thinking, how am I going to get maximum satisfaction from the organization? The part that intersects in this diagram is the job for the individual and the container, the office, the workplace for the organization. And that workplace is made up of many individuals. And within that little square, there are layers and layers of complexity. Like you need to deal with people's emotions. You need to deal with their thinking styles, their mindsets. You need to deal with their beliefs and their values. Ideally, what you want is to have someone who is really at the apex of that little square in between. That person who is getting maximum satisfaction and who is contributing at a maximum level, that's the person that we say he is 100% fully engaged at work. Now, of course, not everyone is like that, and most of the time you would have people, scattered across the organization, placed at different parts on the contribution and satisfaction scale. So you could have someone who is really contributing at a maximum level, but getting very little in terms of satisfaction. So these are the people that we need to pay attention to, because these are the people that you want to keep, right? You want to make them happy because they are really contributing at a maximum level. The danger of this is that we call them the crash and burns because they are really at the verge of a burnout. They contribute at a maximum level, but yet I may be thinking of, shall I quit my job? Shall I look for a brand new job? Shall I, just take a sabbatical or whatever? On the other end of the spectrum, you have someone who is really getting high level of satisfaction, but for some reasons, maybe not contributing that much. So these are the people we call the honeymooners. They could be a new joiner. I just joined the organization. I'm really happy. Or there could be someone who is new to the department, right? Really enjoying myself, really happy, but not up to speed when it comes to contribution. Now, in between them, you get the almost engaged and the disengaged, which is at the very low end of that little square. As a leader, what you want to do then is, how am I going to make sure that my people are satisfied? I'm going to help them to achieve their KPIs. But at the same time, I need to tie their KPIs and their personal successes to the success of the organization. So one question that I need to constantly ask myself is, what do my followers need? Right? So at this juncture, maybe I would just ask one or two, or just solicit one or two feedback from you. So what do you think your follower actually needs? What do you think the follower needs?
Josh, are you okay if I hop in here?
Yes.
I just, I'm in the, my position, and I'll just get you to mute for a second, Josh.
Okay.
So I mean, my position, my title is CEO. I'm technically a leader. What do my followers need? And I think that I just think this is one of the most difficult questions that anybody has to answer, because you're dealing with, it's someone else, right? You're not necessarily yourself. But I think if I had to put something out there, and I've got a couple of my technically followers are on the line here, I think what do they need? I hope what they need is the kind of clarity of where you're going. What is the point of what we do? And I think I feel like a good leader should let people understand what it is that they are working towards, not necessarily just KPIs, but also what the kind of, what are the mission critical and values of the organization.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you. Anyone echo what Steve says? Like you think, I think that's what my follower needs as well. Yep. Interesting point you hit on, Steve. So getting people to be excited, getting people to be to be really connected and contributing. All right. So according to research done, the authors who wrote the book, what they found out was, after 2 decades of research, they found out that regardless of what you say, regardless of what words come out, when they ask what followers needs, it oftentimes falls into 4 key themes. And the themes are, in short, it's CASA. So it's about building your case, right? So the first letter is C, which is community. So as human beings, we are very tribal. We are very deeply rooted. We have a deep-seated longing to belong to a community. So when we come to work, we want to have a sense of belongingness, right? I hope that I want to be able to relate to everyone, not just my leader, but everyone. And I want to feel I belong in this group. So for the follower, it's I belong. And then A stands for authenticity. Now, followers do not want to follow a leader who is perfect, a leader who have never even burned a toast his entire life. Like everything he does, it's stellar, it's shining. This guy could do no wrong. Because if I have a leader like that, I would feel very distant from him. It's like, hey, you're not human, right? So I want to be able to connect with someone who has flaws, and someone who is very comfortable revealing their real human differences, right? Not a fancy job title, but a human being, someone who has humanity, values, personality, and is not afraid to share his vulnerability. So from the follower's perspective, at this stage in this this for authenticity, it's I can connect with this guy. I can connect with my leader. For S, it's significance. All your followers do not want to be treated as just a number in the organization. They want to feel that I am really contributing something of value and I'm being recognized for the value that I bring to the table. As an example, I was on a business trip a couple of years ago, and we were staying in this international hotel chain. And I was impressed with the way they treated me. So upon arrival, someone greeted me at the door, and the moment they opened the door, and first, this is the first time I'm staying in that hotel. The first time they saw me, and this is the guy who's at the reception, and he said, "Welcome, Mr. Voon." And I was curious and said, "How do you know my name? I mean, is there anywhere written? I'm not wearing a name tag saying that I'm Mr. Voon." And this guy said, "Oh, we make all our guests feel welcome and important, and all of us have gone through facial recognition workshops." I was like, "Wow." Extremely impressive, right? And I feel important. I feel that, I matter, right? So for the follower, it's, am I feeling I matter in this team? And the last one, E, stands for excitement. So Lucy, you talk about it. Steve, you talk about it. How can I draw energy, enthusiasm, and passion from my leader? For the follower, I'm looking to be inspired right here. Okay, so there we have it: community, authenticity, significance, and excitement. Now, I'm going to now put us all back in breakout rooms again, and we are going to have a chat on how are we going to build this into our leadership practice. So building your case, how do we do it? So we'll be split into 4 different breakout rooms. So breakout rooms 1, you will be talking about community. So in the 5 to 7 minutes that we have, you'll be coming up with ideas on how am I going to build community in my team? How am I going to make my team members and my teammates, my followers feel that they belong here? For breakout room number 2, you'll be talking about authenticity. How can I be real? How can I bring my whole self to work? And breakout room number 3, you'll be talking about significance. How can I make my followers feel important? Breakout room number 4, you'll be talking about how can I bring that energy and that sense of excitement to my team every single day. So point 1, note taker, so that as you are exchanging ideas, as you're bouncing ideas off the wall, get someone to just write them down, jot them down, so that when we come back, we can have a look and we can discuss this a little bit further. Okay, Steve, kindly put them in breakout rooms.
So I can see Joshua's just typing a couple of answers to some people who sent some questions to him. So I'll let him get through that. I feel like I probably cut you off a little bit early there because people were kind of coming back in slowly. So I apologize if people were kind of in mid conversation and about to solve all the problems of the world right then when I just pulled you back in. Anyway, so yeah, Joshua's finished his message now, and I'll hand you back to Josh.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back. So perhaps we would just open the floor up and see what do you have to share from your discussion. So let's start with breakout room number 1 for community. What ideas did you come up with? So who was in breakout room number 1? Lawrence.
I was there, but I've spoken. Come on, there must be.
Yep.
Maybe Joelle was there, and Desiree, I think your name.
Okay, let's perhaps hear from Joelle.
Okay, sure. So it was a very good sharing. We shared about community. We shared about having a shared purpose and also having common values, and how we constantly remind the teams about the purpose and the values. So we talked about Desiree shared about, you know, her company, how we embed certain values into the daily life. For example, reducing the carbon footprint and prioritizing the projects that they do that is aligned with the objectives. And we also shared about recognition awards if required, and aligning KPIs, the what's and the how's. So that people are aligned to the companies or to the organization's culture and values. Communication is also very important. So Lauren shared about having a WhatsApp chat group. So that maybe links to a little bit about the authenticity bit, where people share about constantly sharing about maybe what they do, you know, in light that a lot of us are working from home. So that we might be facing our different challenges, whether or not we are living alone on our own or living with families with distant learning kids, etc. So yeah, so that's pretty much what we shared earlier.
Great. Thank you, Joelle. So that presupposes that you were the note taker in your group. So you talk about community, you also talk about authenticity as well. You managed to get in a little bit of authenticity. All right, let's hear from breakout room number 2. You talk about authenticity. Perhaps just give us 1 or 2 pointers on what you came up with. How do I build authenticity with my followers? So breakout room number 2.
It's me, Lucy here.
Hi, Lucy.
Okay, so in here, we don't really try to see how to build an authenticity, and then we do think being authenticity is a good feature to be a leader, because we all think that a leader doesn't have to be perfect, right? For instance, Yuting said that his leader is loud. And in the beginning, people might think she's difficult to get along with, but over time, people see he's consistent, and with his loud, his strong personality, she's able to lead the team and accomplish things. So for myself's case, I'm not superly technically strong, but I have to lead a technical team anyhow. So I reach out to help when I don't feel I'm not good at it, and I try to form the team to do research and then to make common senses how we can achieve something by teamwork.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Lucy. Yeah. I understand that authenticity is a tricky one. There was this story that I heard. This particular company sent a few of its key executives to a conference, right, on leadership. And when they came back, some of their team members asked them, so what did you learn, Mr. President? What did you learn in the conference? And the senior leaders said, well, we were told to just be ourselves. And the followers go, no, do not let them be themselves, because when they're being themselves, they act like gangsters and when they're horrible. So all of a sudden, the senior people felt, hey, you know what? It's validated now. I can just be myself. So whilst it's true that you need to be yourself, but it's also having a high level of awareness, knowing that which behaviors are detrimental to my team. So being authentic means letting my team members know what are my key differentiators. Yes, I have my flaws, right? And I'm going to let my team members know what are some of my allowable weaknesses. Not fatal, but I can let them know that, you know what, I'm not good at doing that, or maybe I'm not a detailed person. So if I'm missing out any details, or if I'm missing the fine prints, I would appreciate if I'm giving all of you the permission to come up and tell me that I've overlooked something, because you guys have a greater eye for detail than I do, right? So at this, I'm admitting my flaws, my weaknesses, but at the same time, I'm also giving others the significance that, hey, you may be better than me at this. So that brings us to significance. So let's hear it from breakout group number 3. You talk about significance. So again, just give us a couple of ideas on how do we build significance in your team.
So I think breakout, Josh, the breakout group number 3 was the BCCT team.
Okay.
So we had a little bit of a chance to kind of chat about this one. It was very difficult because we all work together, so we all had to agree with me in a sense. But it was, this idea of just, significance that you talked about. I think that we try to build a team. You're here in our office here, we all sit together, we kind of have lunch together. We try to understand that people are people as opposed to kind of, chess pieces to be moved around or just to be put somewhere. So understanding that the sort of significance part of it was more about, for us, understanding that, there are things that people like, there are things that people don't like, there are things that people are good at. But if you kind of understand who people are, then you can give them significance, even though it may not be that every task is, not everybody has the ability to do every task to the maximum capability. But if you understand who people are, then you can look at their strengths and who they are and how they can fit into this kind of overall mission and values that we talked about before.
Well, thank you, Stephen. I think if anyone epitomizes significance, I think it's you, because I've seen you and your team work together, and I've seen your interactions with the team, and one of the things that you're really good at doing is, you never fail to give them a voice, to give them a chance to speak up, and to make them feel that they matter in the team, and that you recognize their contributions. So Steve is a classic, is a shining example of significance, showing significance to the team. And that brings us to breakout group number 4. So if you could open up your mics, unmute yourself, and give us a couple of pointers on how do you build excitement into your teams.
So I think, Joshua, we actually only had 3 groups. We didn't actually get to a 4th group. The 4th group was, yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, perhaps on our free time, we could think about how am I going to bring a sense of excitement to my team? So could be things like I'm going to convey passion so that I can energize my people, right? I'm going to use maybe perhaps celebrations, right, to celebrate the small daily wins that I'm seeing in my team, to underscore key accomplishments. So that's 1 or 2 ways that we could build excitement in our team. Okay, so at this stage, are there any questions and thoughts and ideas that you would like to talk about on the topic that we have covered so far? Any ideas? Any questions? Any thoughts? All good? Okay. So to sum it up, to wrap it up, we talk about case. What are some of my followers' needs? So are you a leader who makes everyone feel that they belong? Are you a leader that acts in accordance with your shared values? Are you a leader who give others a voice, who let others know that they matter and they are important? And are you a leader who is really committed to creating an atmosphere that promotes creativity, that promotes passion, that promotes a culture of encouragement, right? This makes you a leader that followers would want to follow. And who answers those questions? It's not the leader. It's the follower that answers those questions. So with that, I would like to ask you, what are some of your key takeaways from today's session? What are you taking away from this session? What has spoken to you most? Go ahead, Lucy.
The point that you say about being excited about one thing is a key to lead something to be done. So my experience is that it's very true. When you try to convey something, when you wanted to do something or lead a team to accomplish something, the leader itself has to be the most engaging one, the most excited person over it. Without it, and you can see the team started to wonder about the direction, and then kind of not so efficient. So
Yeah.
I do every day. I try,
Mm-hmm.
I don't usually do this, but I try. And is to go into the office and then started to greet everybody with loud voices. Just trying to cheer everybody up to start with for the day. And that is very helpful.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Yeah. I remember I was working with one of our clients in the insurance industry, and this was the agency. Some members of the agency were being represented, and I overheard a conversation between an agency manager and one of its retail financial services consultants, in which in insurance industry they would have incentive trips every single year. So I overheard the conversation where the agency manager was saying that, hey, when you get to San Francisco this year, which is the incentive trip for that year, could you do yourself a favor and visit these places? And that member of the agency, so part of the team, one of the teammates, so the guy that he was speaking to said, so you're not going with me? So only I am going? And that agency manager said, oh, I think that I am probably going to fall short this year, but you have hit your quota, so you are definitely going, right? And that particular team member said that if you, being my agency manager, and you are telling me that you are not going, what's the point of me going without my team? So that's a classic example of, hey, as a leader, am I conveying excitement and hope to my team, right? If I am not coming with an attitude of, hey, we can do this, we definitely can achieve this, then it's going to be difficult for the people that you lead to have that kind of same attitude as well. Yeah. So that's excitement at work. So thank you for that, Lucy. Perhaps one key takeaway from this session, Lawrence. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing, Joshua. It's been really interesting. I was just going back to the X model that you have earlier on with the diamond, the square in the middle.
Yep.
And for me, I suppose the key takeaway was to remind myself to have that awareness of my team, to go in on a daily basis and to check in with people, to find out how they're feeling. Do they feel engaged? Do they feel inspired? Am I inspiring them? Is their job inspiring them? Do they understand the organization, like the objectives that we're working towards? Do they understand how they play a kind of important part in us achieving those objectives and what they can get? Yeah, that for me was kind of one of the big takeaways. And yeah, I guess it's just awareness.
Great. Thank you, Lawrence. Happy to hear that. Thank you. One of the...
Joshua, I think
Yes.
Josh has been kind of champing at the bit to say something here. Let me just
Go
cut
ahead,
into you and let...
Go ahead, Josh. Sorry, I didn't pick that up.
That's okay. I just wanted to talk about one of my takeaways, which is probably community, because I manage teachers across a few different schools. So I find it sometimes quite hard to kind of, and I don't interact with them every day. I don't actually go to the schools every day. I only go maybe once every couple of weeks or something like that. So I find it difficult to kind of build that community across different schools. And I think that would be a really important thing to do. And I think that's a really, something I haven't really, I mean, I do think about it a bit, but I think it's something I can think about a lot more. So that was my takeaway.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you. Yeah. So one of the ways to take this deeper, perhaps in your own time, what you could do is to take out an white piece of blank A3 paper, right? So almost like an art block. And then right at the center, you write down your name, or even better, put a picture of yourself there, right at the center of that blank piece of paper. And then around you, write down names or pictures of your teammates, your followers, people that look up to you for inspiration, people that look up to you for leadership. And then slowly ask yourself now, where do I think each person is on that X model, right? Are they fully engaged? Are they at burnout stage? Are they, having a good time but not contributing a lot? Are they in honeymoon phase, or are they almost engaged or completely disengaged? Put them down and then ask yourself, what can I do to excite them to exceptional performance? Going back to the case that we did today, CASE, what can I bring up? What can I play up more so that I can get my followers to be more engaged at work? So as mentioned, this is a 2-day workshop, and at Q3 Global, we do other things as well. So anytime you want to bring people together to learn, to communicate, to roll out a brand new strategy, to get them to work together and collaborate better, collaborate more across virtual platforms, across countries, we can help you do that. So get in touch with Steve, and I'm happy to have a chat with all of you. And if you guys don't mind, I would be happy to have all of your contact details so that, one day we could meet up for a real breakfast. And with that, I am complete, and I'm going to pass the time back to Stephen. So thank you. Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you.
So I think we'd big word of thanks to Joshua. It's as he said, this is normally I deliver this in a 2-day workshop, and he's given us this taster in about an hour of something that normally takes a couple of days. He's condensed a lot of information into a very, very short space of time. So we do thank him a lot. I personally had a couple of really strong takeaways today, but one of the things that I learned most, this authenticity word has always bothered me. And I think Joshua kind of addressed this today with a very simple comment in the chat line where he just said, authenticity is being yourself, but with skills. And I thought that actually kind of makes sense now. I get it. You've got to be a leader, but you've still got to have the kind of the equipment that you need to actually do the job that you're supposed to do. I want to thank everyone. I'm just going to go down my list here. Thanks, Josh, for coming in. Thanks, Lucy. Thanks, Lawrence, for all your support. Joelle, for coming in from Singapore, right? Wow. Desiree, thanks a lot for being here. Sabrina, Tina, Yuting, thanks for not crashing your car. And to Gordon, I know you had a couple of technical issues. You came back in and out a couple of times, but it was good to have you here. So thanks once more to Joshua. His details are on the screen there. Do contact them. They're a great company. But if you need anything, if you haven't got the contacts and you just want some questions answered, feel free to contact us as well. You can always find us, the website, www.bcctaipei.com. We're doing a lot of webinars these days, for obvious reasons. And do just kind of keep in touch, have a look at the website and see what's going on, and feel free to join in. They're all free. So come on down, enjoy them.